to the Open Books Podcast, where we discuss all things going on in the real estate industry, helping you take the road less traveled to real estate success,
Guiding you to the top.
guiding you to the
2%?
top 10%.
2%.
10%.
We're
I
not
thought
talking
he
about
said
milk
2%.
here. 2%.
I'm your co-host, Curtis Attic, alongside my co-host, Brooke Massey and Casey Tudor. Welcome to the Open Books Podcast.
Good morning.
Well, in that case, I want to be skim, so I'll be not the 1%. I'm so good. I'm skimming right on top.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. I'm just going to be non-fat.
You're just gonna be it.
Yeah.
I'm good with whole milk. Or almond milk.
Or almond milk.
It works.
I don't even know what that would be then.
I don't either. I think that you're in a different industry.
Yep.
Totally different industry.
You're at Lender.
It's still milk.
Oh, man.
Anyways.
What are we talking about today?
Oh, we're talking about first-time home buyers.
I've been a first-time home buyer before. Have you,
I have.
Brooke?
Yep.
Yeah. we've all
Now
been
I'm a
first-time buyers.
pro
Yeah.
because I
Once-
bought one house.
Yeah, I got my first house and I thought, I'm going to get my license. This is easy.
Yep.
Wait,
That's
so
definitely not
easy.
what
I took those
thought.
sellers for everything they had.
Oh, yeah. Do you remember your experience as a first-time home buyer?
Yeah, I do.
When was it? How long ago was it?
It was 13 years ago.
Was it the house I knew you in? Was it,
Yeah.
that was your first one?
Yeah.
Wow.
At that
I don't
time.
remember at all.
At that time, it
well,
was my
no,
first
I do
and only.
remember, but I don't like.
When was it? When did you get your first house?
2016. So how many years ago was that? 8.
8. Yeah.
Here's what happened to me. We got down payment assistance where we weren't gonna have to pay it back. I forget how the
me
program
too.
was gonna work. But then they came back and because I didn't have any credit at the time, but my wife did.
Mm-hmm.
So, at the time, my girlfriend. Shh.
Nobody knew.
Don't tell my grandparents. But anyways, they use her credit score, but they use both of our incomes. But then they came back and said that they forgot to use my income or something like that. So then we got disqualified for the down payment assistance, and it was like,
Did they already give it to you?
yeah, it was like less than a week before closing. So I had to come up with like $7,000 that I did not have,
Oh, you're probably like broke as a joke.
and so I had to call and borrow it from my father-in-law. And basically, it was one of those moves that these lenders do. They go, "Hey, I need this now,
Yeah.
like right now, or we can't close."
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was that what I need is $7,000. So I had to call my father-in-law.
Well, and in your
And-
mind, you're thinking we won't get this house at all if I don't get it right now.
Yeah, and that's what I'm thinking. So I called my father-in-law. He's like, "Hey, I'm in a meeting. Can I call you in a couple hours?" I said, "No, this is an emergency." And he's like, "What do you need?" He's like, "I need $7,000." And he's just like, "Okay."
This could wait until after the meeting.
He's like, "That's fine." Yeah.
Here's a check.
Interesting.
So he gave me $7,000 and we paid him back.
So I got the first time home buyer's credit.
Nice.
So it wasn't like down payment assistance or anything like that, but it was an $8,000 credit that you got, but it was after closing, and then they just sent you an $8,000 check. And I remember when I got that check in the mail, oh man, I felt like so
We
good.
made it.
Yes.
That's cool.
Yes. I
I
was
did
just
not
like,
get that at all.
well, it was like, so I got my first house in 2009. So
Oh, there you go.
it was during the financial crisis, the 2008 financial crisis, and they put that program into place to try to stimulate home buying. And I think it was when I had just graduated college. My sister was still in college, and so we were getting a house. So that because we were, to save money, and then both lived there, and it was our first one, and so got the credit. And I remember the first thing I did was
You spent it.
I did
On,
yeah.
on
Buy a
CDs,
couch.
non CDs, yeah.
CDs.
No, I
Oh, yeah.
actually ended up
I mean,
getting
compact discs.
I actually because the house had an office. I didn't use it as I kind of used it as an office, but I got a treadmill
Oh, nice.
and I got a nice one.
An
And
$8,000
Yeah, sounds like
it wasn't $8,000.
Okay.
No. I think I put like half of it like in savings or something like that, and spent the other half. I think I went on like a vacation, got a treadmill, but like boy, I'll tell you, the other 4,000, it was gone.
Just
And
on like
it's
probably randomness stuff.
Yeah, I
You
can't even remember.
Yeah,
like and
that's how it always happens.
and it's
Yeah.
frustrating because you think, man, just to get $8,000 for nothing for free, it's like.
And you just blow it.
It's like it's so crazy how fast you can spend money that
Oh,
you
yeah.
didn't
Especially
have.
now with inflation. It's like I went and got like 3 items from the grocery store, just like make sure we had enough food for breakfast for our family. It was like
$200.
it was like $40 for like 3 items.
Well, maybe you shouldn't buy the almond milk. You should get the whole milk.
we're not
just
gonna
kidding.
we're not gonna do this, Brooks.
No, I just remember the $500 earnest money was a lot of money for me that I had to come up
And
with.
it's funny that you bought a house at the time where $500 earnest money was a thing.
Yeah, we
oh
did.
yeah,
we did
and I was
repair
in
caps,
multiple
too.
offers though
Mhm.
too. I was in multiple offers. I lost on a couple houses before I finally got mine.
Was it
Because I
because
needed closing costs.
was it because you're only doing $250 earnest money?
I have
I'm just
no.
kidding. Yeah.
I'll be honest.
You didn't know.
I had no clue because no one
Yeah.
ever explained it to me.
You
I had a
signed what
good
they put in front of
agent.
you.
I
Yeah.
had a good agent, and my sister was going around with me. And I do remember in one house, and they were like explaining everything, and I was like, "Guys, I am lost."
Wait, is this the house that you live in now?
Yeah.
And so did you buy it with Brittany?
No, we were split up at the time.
Okay.
Ooh.
The split was a good thing.
We were
Yeah,
on a
it brought 'em-
break.
It brought them together. It brought them together.
No, we today is actually our 13-year
What?
dating
Oh,
anniversary.
dating anniversary. I thought you
Yeah.
were going to say of purchasing the house.
no,
That would have been wild.
no.
So did you get any credits? Anything when you got your house for
Yeah.
the first time?
Well, they paid for I think my closing costs, and then I know I had to have my mom help me, and I think she helped like bring like $4,000 or something.
I'm trying to think. I think because I buying in 2009 was actually it was great because I got the $8,000. I negotiated off the price some, and they paid all my closing costs, all of it. And so I just thought that was normal.
And I also asked
is
for
funny. That we think that's normal, which sometimes it is.
Yeah, sometimes it just depends on the market. And so if I didn't get my license, I probably like next time I went to buy my house, I would have been one of those people like, no. The seller pays the closing costs.
Yeah,
Yes.
I was an ideal first time home buyer because we looked at 5 houses.
hmm
That night we chose one and we put an offer in. We took our realtor's recommendation on what to offer.
Mm-hmm,
We got a counter and we accepted it.
Yep.
And then that was it.
Yeah.
We had a $500 repair cap. And there was tons of stuff wrong with that house. And we took it anyway.
Well, you turned it into a really good house.
We
too.
did. Yeah. And it's interesting how people behave when you're working with first time home buyers. And what I've noticed is anyone who has any kind of like remodeling or construction or handyman background, they're typically better clients because they can think a little clearer about a property. Whereas
They're not worried about stuff.
someone who doesn't even know how to use a screwdriver, they say a crooked outlet and they freak out.
Yeah.
And that's not all the way true because I don't know how to use a screwdriver and I don't care about that stuff.
You know, that's
know? I don't worry about it. You know,
Yeah,
I'm like,
well, that's good.
I'll figure it out. You
Yeah.
know?
I'll call
Or I can
somebody.
hire somebody. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
yeah.
Okay, so what are some of the things that first-time homebuyers do that they shouldn't?
They panic.
Mm.
For
You
one,
think, is that the number one thing? you
I
think?
had a
They
client.
worry a lot.
I had a client one time. He wanted to know back like on what they were saying with our counter offer because he really wanted the house. And I told him, I was like, I haven't heard back, but I'm gonna let you know. He called the listing agent and to check on it. And then after the listing agent just basically said like, hey, your realtor will let you know or
Mhm.
whatever. And so this guy Sage, he calls me. He's like, hey man, he's like, I did it. I'm like, you did what? He's like, I did it. I freaked out and called the listing agent. He like told on himself, you know. I was dying laughing. And we ended up getting that house, doing inspections, backing out of that house
Mm.
because of the home inspector.
Oh.
Kind of scared him off.
Mm.
Do they
So
choose the
that's
home
another
inspector?
type of panic right there.
Yep.
Yeah. The home inspections, I feel like, scare a lot of first time home buyers.
Well, that just happened to me. Well, on a listing,
Mm.
and I was going to say something that first-time home buyers do is there was a little bit of panic in this one, but also unrealistic expectations.
Yeah.
As far as I heard somebody use the phrase, they had a champagne taste on a beer budget.
Right.
Yeah.
That's typically first-time home buyers. They see like all this nice stuff out there, and they want to go get it, but they can only afford the
Yeah.
beer.
I was
same
totally
people,
that.
Those
Yeah, were
those
you?
same people walk through and they go, they don't have any money for closing costs, and they're going, so I wonder how much it would be to take down all these walls.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
Dude, you're talking like and then you have to redo the floors and electrical. Like you're probably talking like 30, 40 grand after you do the flooring and everything. And they're
Yeah.
like, oh, it's like, well,
Yeah.
yeah, you know, you don't just take the wall, you don't just hit a sledgehammer with it.
Yeah, it's very interesting to see some of that. But no, the
They
reason
can dream. They can dream.
yeah, well, the unrealistic expectation on this particular listing was we had it under contract and they backed out in inspections, but the inspections were really, really clean and good for the age of the home.
Uh-huh.
So you got a first-time home buyer, and this could be the agent not doing their job because they're looking at homes that were built in the 1940s.
Mm.
Right.
And so if you're looking at homes built in the 1940s, you
With
better
a first time home buyer.
with a first-time home buyer, mind you, you better set expectations about the inspection before you do the inspection.
Yep.
Because when I got the inspection report when they backed out, I was like, oh my gosh, I was like, this is amazing for 1940.
Mm-hmm.
You know, for what you would expect and how outdated it would be. And we even told him like, you know, like the things that you're concerned about, any major concerns, like we'll take care of it. But they had already in their mind
Oh,
made
yeah.
up that
Yeah.
it was everything about this house was going to be a disaster.
What I say about, or what I hate to see from first-time home buyers, what they will do is they'll go see the house that it's their dream house, and then they run into like an inspection that scares them off, or their parents tell them they should have done something different. So they back out. You go to house number 2, and it's like it's not as nice as the first one, but then they get discouraged because now they wish they had the first one. So now they're backing out. They're going to slow things down, and then they end up getting in this like time crunch or this like psychological time crunch, and they end up buying the third house, which is the worst one.
Yeah, and they said
With
Yeah.
the most amount of problems, and they settle when they could have had what they actually wanted in the beginning. But they got to learn. Like sometimes they just have to go through the process.
Sometimes
Yeah.
people need the experience. So we can say things and set expectations, but every once in a while, sometimes it's like they need to see it for themselves.
They need to touch that stove, even though
Yeah.
you told them it was hot. They got to go touch it.
Yep.
yeah, it doesn't matter. Sometimes people got to learn on their own.
I think that's a hard thing for us to do as realtors, especially if you care a lot
Mhm.
about your clients, because you want them to do the right thing, but sometimes it's like you have to step back, give them their options, and
Yeah.
let them choose at the end of the day.
Yep.
Yeah, it's
You're right.
it's really hard. I mean, what I think is hard as an agent is from on that perspective is when you allow your client to learn from their decision making,
Mhm.
but you can't take that experience to the next first time home buyer that you deal with. And then you got it's like you're starting over with every
Yes.
single person. Same thing on the listing side. It's like I told you not to overprice it, and they're like, yeah, you were right, and then you get to the next person and they don't know you were right.
Yes.
Yeah,
you
that's
got to
right.
start over again.
And you
with
can
them.
bring up the stories too, but sometimes
oh,
that
it does.
doesn't.
Again, it goes back to they don't have that experience
Uh-huh.
yet, and they got to experience
Yeah,
it
they're
for
like, oh, that
themselves.
sounds nice.
Yeah,
that
that
sounds
was them. That
bad.
was them. I know what I'm doing. I know
Yeah.
what I'm talking about.
So now that we got our first time home buyers all pissed off at us for talking trash. No, I'm kidding. But some things like that I think that first time home buyers should be doing, especially with the new NAR settlement stuff, is like if you're even on the radar to buy a house in the next year, call your real estate agent or the one you think's going to be your real estate agent. Have them educate you on the process.
Yes.
This is why I like doing open houses, because I can educate people on the process while I'm there, and that's how I typically earn my business and my clients. And the best thing you can do as a first-time home buyer, slow the game down. Well, that's really for anyone. So the last thing you want to do is find a house, call your realtor, go see it that night. Now, I'm not complaining if you want to move that fast. I will too. But
Yeah.
what happens is they get under contract, and then they start looking at things.
They're panicking.
Now
or
they're
like-
panicking because they didn't think about it. And now all of a sudden it's like, oh man, I don't think we can afford that payment. It's like, well, when you and your partner or whoever you're buying a house with, when you first realized that you were going to buy one, you should have gotten educated on it. Called your lender, have them
Yeah.
educate you on the closing costs. What do the interest rates look like? And then that way, whenever you're ready, you're prepared, and then you don't have to freak out as much.
That we just had a deal in Texas actually. In Texas they don't require people to do like cost to buyer, net to seller sheets, and we tell all of our Texas agents that. I mean,
Do
we,
it anyway.
we require it, but and this particular agent now understands why we require it because she had a buyer that was selling their house and they were downsizing for financial reasons. And they were buying a new construction home at a certain price point. And then I can't remember exactly what happened, but they got the closing disclosure and it showed the buyer how much cost they were going to have to bring to the closing table.
Oh.
And they panicked.
I bet they did.
And freaked out. And they
Did they call their father-in-law?
Don't know about that one. I don't know about that one. But they backed out, and they backed out. They lost their earnest money, and I don't think they're going to buy anymore. And for all we know, they might not have had the money at all, right?
Sure.
But I mean, the lender, our agent, I mean, they did everything that they could to get the payment down, to help bring some credits to the table, to lower the initial investment into the house to be able to get into it. But it still freaked them out, which is why that cost of buyer was so important, because if they would have done that from the very beginning, then they
Right.
would have been prepared and it wouldn't have been sticker shock like the week of closing.
Well,
So
out of everything, no matter what industry you're in, it's always about the money. Making sure the money's right and they understand it and they know what to expect.
And
Yeah.
if you can,
And if you lead with that and start with that, the rest of everything else you're going to explain is usually pretty simple at that point.
because after that, it's everything that's in between.
Yeah, because then it's like, oh, okay, whatever. I have to bring this much, or I'm going to take this much home. I don't care what you do with the rest of everything, you know?
What I find interesting about like newer agents too, because I get this question a lot. It's like, well, how do I provide value to my clients? It's like, I'm just like, I want you to like think about that for a minute as a new agent. What do you think would give you value?
Mm.
It's like, know the process,
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's always
learn the
educate.
contracts, know what things are going to cost, because those are what your clients are going to want to know.
Yeah.
And it just blows my mind that's not where they think they should start. You should maybe start with the social media or whatever it is. Just read the contract.
So with first time home buyers, I think we can say the first step, back to what you were saying, Casey, is get with your agent, and if you don't have an agent, in fact, I would say in this new environment, even if you have an agent that you've worked with in the past, unless it's me or Casey or Brooke, go interview agents.
Yeah.
Like go talk. In fact, I would even, and I was joking, but yeah, like
Even
405-595-8902. That is my phone number.
even if it is us, go talk to
I
a
was gonna
couple of
say, yeah.
agents, because you gotta work with somebody that you feel like is going to represent you well, that's going to that you're gonna work together with well, that has the experience, that has the knowledge, that's going to be able to navigate difficult situations, stressful situations, and all that. So you've got to make sure you find the right agent that knows what they're doing.
and bring questions to ask the
Yeah.
agent.
Yeah.
So I have a first time home buyer I worked with this weekend, and we got her under contract. She was so prepared. I was so proud of her, and she just came and she asked so many questions, and it was between my team and someone else, and she was like, it was such a good fit. We're going to go ahead and move forward with you. Like, we just feel good with you, and you explained everything to us perfectly.
Yeah, and a really good agent won't. And I'm not knocking you telling people to have their questions, because they should.
Yeah,
But a good agent will answer all the questions that they didn't think they had,
absolutely.
up front. And so that's how I've got my clients at open houses, because I'll say, did I answer all your questions today? And they're usually like, yes, we pretty much. That makes so much sense. We learned a lot.
All right, so they find an agent, first time home buyers. What's the next step?
Well, if they listen to what we said, then they're going to call their lender.
If they get a good agent, that should be the first and last step, really.
Right.
Yeah,
Right?
Because
not a mortgage lender. I always think finding a good agent should be always the first step. I feel like when people post on social media, they always flip flop.
They do.
Lender and
Well,
real estate
that's
agent.
because that's like a realtor, and it's not wrong, but it's like
Yeah,
that's
it's
almost a
not-
realtor not wanting you to waste your time. Like,
Yeah.
go get pre-approved and then come to me. It's like,
Yeah.
just come to me first, so I can maybe recommend you a lender that I trust.
Or like warn you about a certain big national one that doesn't give great customer service and I can't contact them, and we can
Yeah.
talk through that, right? So
Agreed.
So agent first, we all agree,
Yeah.
right? And I think even good lenders and mortgage brokers, they would say to contact your agent first.
I agree.
You know, and then we will guide you through the rest of the process. But the next step that we would say would be go see your lender and see what you get pre-qualified for and all that. And we're going to qualify the agent will, if they do a good job, they're going to qualify you as a buyer, which includes the pre-qualification, but also what you're looking for in a house. So we know where to take you, what neighborhoods, what
Yeah, I
style.
always say that step, because a lot of people don't like it. I'm like, that step tells me what to do next for you.
Yes.
And so when I say that, people are like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Because I'm like, I don't want to take you to a house that you fall in love with and then you find out you can't get it and you're heartbroken. That's not my goal here. So.
Yeah, or take you to a house or waste your time driving you around town, and then you walk in and you know immediately this is not the house for you. I always want to, get from first. Well, it doesn't matter if they're first-time home buyers or not, but they're negotiables and non-negotiables, and most importantly, it's their non-negotiables. So there's a big difference between the two, and even agents don't really understand that.
I think what also agents don't understand and what clients need to understand along with the agents is like, what do you get for the price point you're in?
Mm-hmm.
Like
Yes.
you're not going to get
In
something.
the area,
Yeah, you're not going to get something brand new if your budget's $150,000.
Right.
right?
In fact, it's probably going to be a borderline, maybe not even go FHA
Right.
type house, or you can buy. There's like in Oklahoma. Well, I guess they're big, but Roush Coleman is like one of the cheaper houses you can buy.
Mm-hmm.
But you're gonna your parents can't come to that and be like, this is junk quality. It's like, okay, we'll give them another $150,000
We'll get you something
and we
better.
can get them something better.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so I've actually lost a first time home buyer that way because we were showing over here in Military Park, which is historic, but it's a little like smaller and not quite so nice.
Yeah.
And that's what they could afford. And their parents came to the second showing. We're going to put an offer in on it, and they just put a stop to it. They're like, "You guys aren't going to live over here. You need to live over by us." And they live in Crown Heights. And the girl's fiance or whoever he was, he's just like, "We can't afford that," like to his in-laws. And they're like, "Well, I don't know what to say." And then that was it. They never bought a house.
So that
Aw.
happened to me once too, and the parents got involved, and I kind of agree with the parents. I've actually put a stop to a sale before
Yes.
because it was a young girl. She was like 19 years old, and it was not a good part of town, and where she was renting was perfectly fine, and this would have been like she did not have any money, like zero, and she was going to get the seller to pay closing costs. She had down payment assistance, but she had no business buying a house. And I actually got with the lender,
I remember this
and
actually.
and the lender was agreed with me that this was not a like he was like, yeah, we could get her qualified, but I don't know if this is the. So I talked to her about it, and she agreed, and she didn't buy the house. But I had another situation just like that where the parents got involved, and they're like, you're not, this is too like, this is not to our standards,
Mhm.
and you're just not ready to buy a house. You're gonna have to wait.
Yeah, wait for appreciation and the interest rates to go up.
Yeah,
That's what you
yeah,
should do.
yeah. Well, in their mind, it was wait till you are making more money.
Right.
Yeah.
Is kind of what they were thinking.
Man, dude, like looking back, I should have just bought something.
I know.
Like I should have figured it out
I know.
because I would have been so much better off now.
Yeah. Especially now. Yeah.
Like the equity.
Because
and
I was
stuff.
almost 30. I was like late 20s when I bought my first house. I was too busy partying.
Well, that's good times. Good times for you.
It was
then,
good
right?
times. Yeah.
Okay.
It's all about experience.
But
What's next?
we could have partied in my brand new house with my friends paying my rent.
There you go.
I mean, that's a good
Yeah.
point.
There you go. Okay, so they got their lender. They now kind of know what they're looking for. They go look at houses. What's next?
You try to tell them what their favorite 3 or 5 are, and maybe it's just one. Hopefully, it's always best if it's just one. But
So, as a first-time home buyer, What are other things? So like they're going to look at houses. Typically, I think a first time home buyer is the buyer that's looking at 15, 20, 25, 30 properties. Would you agree, or would you say? I mean, I think
Mm.
anybody can do that, but
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
Um,
we're coming out of the COVID season. It's 2024 now, so it was a lot different because a lot of those first time home buyers weren't buying at all, or they're building.
before,
No, after we're like Deering
oh yeah,
because it was the only way they didn't have to bring $20,000 to $30,000
Yes.
over asking. So I would just push them to new construction depending on their budget. We'd go sit down, talk, and build, and that was it.
Yeah.
Well-
All my investors were buying the first time home buyer houses.
well that was a once in a lifetime environment. So in a non-COVID environment,
Well, okay, let's say if you're in a buyer's market, yeah, they're probably gonna look at 15 to 20 houses.
yeah,
If you're in a seller's market, it's gonna be less, I'm sure.
yeah. Well, because you got to make a decision, you got to decide quickly. You know?
Yeah, and it's funny how people's behavior like adapts to that.
Mhm.
it is interesting.
Because when you're in a seller's market, it's like, but there's a hole in the roof, and the buyer's like, I don't care, get me the house.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I-
And then
yeah.
in a buyer's market, it's like, why is that electrical outlet? Let's go look at 10 more. Yeah, the electrical outlet's crooked. Let's go look at 10 more houses.
Yeah, but
Make sure.
I do think I think first time home buyers, I mean, because they don't really, it's their first time. I think they're so worried about getting the wrong house. They hear
Yeah.
all the horror stories of
They're
how
just scared.
it's just an emotional roller coaster. And yeah, they're nervous that they're going to throw all their money down the drain and they don't see it as an investment. And so they want to make sure that they get the perfect house, the house that has good bones and there's nothing that's going to go wrong. And I feel like I see and hear about that a lot more with first time home buyers than anybody else.
I'd venture to say probably that even if it's your second or third time, you're still a first time home buyer.
Oh,
And what I
yes.
mean is like a lot of times
Yes.
their behaviors don't really change. It's usually a personality thing. And then also when after they buy their first house, they go to sell it. Now most likely they're going to be contingent, and that's a whole new
Ball
learning ball. That's a whole new
Yeah.
ball game because selling a house, once you decide you want to sell it, you just want to get rid of it. It's not exciting. It's like get rid of it and get me what I think that I want.
Yes.
So now you got a first time home seller.
Not always the case, man. You got people sometimes that I'll wait
Or
6 months. I don't have to sell this thing.
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I
Then
mean.
why you have it for sale?
They're being first time home sellers now.
Well, yeah. I mean, I just think that there's like first time home sellers can play the game in so many different ways.
When I sold my first house, the one I bought that I was easy on, I had and this was during COVID and people were offering 10 to 15,000 or more. I had two offers on the first day. One was 10,000 above asking, it was FHA loan. And I already saw them on my Ring doorbell and they're a little skittish. And then I had an investor offer me 5,000 less than I asked, and he was going to rent the house back out to me. So I took the offer immediately. I did not counter. And then when he asked me for repairs, it ended up being about $2,000 in repairs. And I just did it. I was like, sure. And then I sold my house to him. And it was easy. It was so easy. And I was so thankful because I was building a house. So I wanted that money in my pocket as fast as possible.
Oh, that makes sense.
Even if it was a little less than I possibly could have gotten, I took it.
Well, I think it's just understanding what is everyone's ultimate goal, because
Well,
not
and I'd
everyone's
also-
ultimate goal is the same.
Well, and I'd also
Their
sold
mindsets
hundreds
are
of
the same.
houses at that time.
Yes.
And so I already knew every deal is super fragile. And it could be, one day the buyer's excited. The next day they're like, man, we've been thinking,
Yep.
So don't delay closings. Don't let people think. Just take the deal and go. But yeah, that was my goal.
No, I like first time home buyers just overall because I feel like I can protect them better and I feel like they trust me more. I can educate them more and just help guide them throughout the whole process. And then two, if you focus on first time home buyers, well, they're going to buy a house hopefully and you follow them throughout their life and that's how your business grows, right? You may sell them a $150,000 house today, but then in 3 years you sell them a $400,000
Yeah.
house, and then it just keeps growing.
And what's funny about all that is if you go try to sell like $1 million house, a lot of times those people's ego, they're going to say things like, well, how many $1 million houses have you sold? It's like, why don't you ask me how many first-time homebuyers I've worked with? Because that is hard. Navigating a first-time homebuyer is much harder.
Is it?
Yeah.
I think it's easier.
Navigating first-time homebuyers?
Hmm. I like it better.
You
I
do?
think that
I think it depends on the person.
I think
right?
Casey's
But-
point is the price point more than what house they're buying potentially,
that's
because
a
the
good-
first time home buyer is going to be usually a smaller price point, and
margins.
those are harder to
Yeah, low
sell
margins.
than the more expensive ones.
more competitive, more competition.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, there's a lot of reasons behind it, but yeah.
Yeah.
How many of those have you sold? How many homes less than 100,000 have you sold?
Right.
And that's how I know you're not only skilled but a hard worker.
Right. Well, that just goes back to what I was saying. Like, if you want to be a good agent, just know the process and know the transaction. And probably the more first-time home buyers you work with, the better you're going to know that. Because you're
Yeah.
going to come up with all kinds of stuff. Or you work with, doctors who are terrible with their finances and don't turn in any of their paperwork to the lender, like, at all, and just don't care. Those are hard to deal with too. A
I
lot
think
like
it's
the
just
first time.
people.
Yeah, I mean, if people are coachable, I mean, in any facet of life, that's the people you want to deal with.
Right. Right.
And you know what I hate the most is whenever people who aren't coachable and don't listen to you, they still get what they want, and you're just like, ugh. Like the guys who are like, let's raise the price $25,000, and you're like, that ain't gonna work, and then you do it and it sells.
Mm.
Ah,
That's why I always
Sweet.
tell people, listen, I've been wrong before, but
you have to say that,
yeah, I don't think that this is what we should be doing.
right?
That way you kind of protect the other side of it.
Yeah.
Most of the time, our experience and market will be right.
Right.
Yes.
know,
But
But you
if
never know when you get that needle in a haystack person who inherited a bunch of money and they don't care. Like they're gonna just spend
Oh,
it. It's
yeah,
like,
because that just happens.
yeah, it happens.
Well,
So
that's
what
like,
people are looking
So
for.
make sure you own up too. Be
Yeah.
like, well, I was wrong. Look
Yeah.
what we got.
if you don't think those things can happen, then you're just not. You're not.
You're naive.
Well, yeah, you're not letting the market speak. Because the first time I learned that was like I was running comps for this house, and it's like 325,000 is the max you're going to get. Like, look at the comps. It's telling you
Yeah.
what it's going to bring, and then they get they for sale by owner, or they were for sale by owner. I was trying to convert them, and then they ended up getting a California buyer to buy cash as
Yep.
is, no appraisal, and they got 350.
Well, one thing to remember with comps is that's history.
Yeah, it's history, and it's still a market
Yeah,
that we're in.
goes up or down from there.
Yeah, and things affect the market every single day.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
I mean, half the country went on strike and got blown out by a bunch of hurricanes like a couple weeks ago, and made interest rates go up.
And you can feel
right?
that
And so
too.
that affects the market a little bit.
Yeah, you can feel that whenever it's like all of a sudden you'll start stacking listings, and then it's like just one day, 2 or 3 of those listings get showings, and then the next couple of days you got 2 or 3 houses under contract,
Yeah.
Oh,
and
yeah.
then or vice versa, you get all these showings and no one's put an offer in, and all of a sudden nothing for like weeks.
Yeah.
Oh,
So all your sellers are calling you, all the realtors are saying, "Hey, what's going on? Are you getting any showings?" It's like, no. And then all of a
Well,
sudden it's like, was your weekend busy? God, yeah, it was
Yeah.
terribly busy.
I
Yeah.
worked 3 multiple offer situations 2 weeks ago while Jennifer was gone. 2 of them was on our listings. One of them had been on the market for over 100 days, and the other one had been on the market for about 60 days.
I love multiple
Oh,
offers.
That's
me
how it
too. I
goes.
got so excited. I was like, all right, we're doing this. And I got the seller what they wanted. So,
Because
but-
I always told my buyers during COVID, I'm like, "You guys want this house?" And they're like, "Yes." I'm like, "You willing to do what I suggest?" And they're like, "Yes." And then we write it up and they get the damn house. It's like, wow, weird how that worked. It's weird that I know what the sellers want, because I was like, what's important to the
well,
seller?
I mean,
it's like
I get it.
it's like they want money.
I get it. At the end of the day, people do look at us that we're salesmen, right? And so they also don't want you to just blow their money just to blow it, right? And so they're just protective a little bit.
Sure.
So, but just navigating it again, it's just people.
Yep.
So, some people are okay with it and they trust you. Some people are like, I don't know about this guy. He has a beard.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I'm just kidding.
Hey, I've had an agent call me before because I was standing outside this house waiting on my client,
Yeah.
and the agent calls us like, "Hey, just making sure you're the one at the house, right?" I'm like, "Yeah," and I'm like, "I know, I don't look like what most people think a realtor looks like in
Fair.
their head."
Oh man.
So yeah.
Okay, well, I mean, back to first time home buyers, since that is the topic at hand. What let's say, I would like, if people are listening as first time home buyers, I would like to give some kind of value to them. What's something?
Don't do it. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, well, that wouldn't be good for us.
No, I'm kidding.
Let-
You should.
Let's go back to, like, okay, they're going through the process, they're getting they found a house, okay, like the we talked about early on, like one of the things that scares them away the most is going to be the inspection, or just
Yes.
fear it's in general. How can we help first time home buyers out there navigate the inspection process so they know what to expect, and how to navigate that whole process to be comfortable enough to say this is the house that I should buy, or at what point should they say this is not the house that I should
That's a
buy?
great question, Curtis. And I think that the better skilled as an agent as you are, the more likely you can get through this part of the process, because
Yes.
you have to be able to tell these home buyers, considering the age,
Confidently.
considering what market we're in, and considering what is normal for this type of house. And you have to be able to calmly provide this information, and your home inspector has to calmly provide the information too. And so you have to let them know that you're going to have a good home inspector that you trust, that will make sure that they inspect the home properly. And then that's all they need to know, is he's going to just go through it with a fine comb. But what they don't know is he's going to deliver it in a way that is going to keep them calm. And there's little things that inspectors do that ruin this experience. One of them is telling them, just saying something as simple as like, yeah, the seller needs to have this addressed,
Mm-hmm.
because now it's telling them that it has to be done.
Seed.
Planting seeds, instead of just saying,
like the seller has to do it.
yeah,
Yeah.
this needs to be looked at, or like, here's the problem. And now, because what I love about my home inspector is he'll say things like, for the age of the home, I'm really not seeing anything concerning.
Yes.
Everything on this report, it's onesie twosies.
You might want to monitor it. If it gets worse, then okay, let's
Yeah.
talk about it. But it's been this many years, and this is where we're at. Like, it's a solid house.
Yeah.
Or whatever there's.
So and this is easier said than done, because as much as we don't want to really admit it, there is money on the line for us. So you have to be able to separate yourself from that, because I've seen
you have to.
agents at home inspections lose their mind over an inspection, because now they know the deal's probably going to bust, because the way that they see, or that if the buyers are asking questions and the listing agent's there and they're snapping off, like, there's nothing wrong with that. It's like, deal's over now.
It's sad that when agents cannot disconnect from the financial aspect of it, which, I mean, to an extent, I get it. It's how you live and pay your bills and everything. But everyone, if you're in it long enough, you're going to be faced with a situation where you have to choose, morals and ethics over money.
Yeah, and if it's wrong, it's wrong. There's inspections. That's what it is. It's evidence.
That's what it's for.
Evidence and inspections, and you get tons of reports. So if the home inspector calls out a foundation, and then I get a foundation report and it says it needs a lot of piers, I know that can be argumentative a little bit, but still it's, hey, it needs to be done. And if no one can come to terms with it, then you gotta do the right thing.
To all the agents out there, I think the problem with this is just with people in general, is that we're living too much in the right now, in the moment, instead of thinking about the future and thinking long term. And I would argue that preventing someone from buying a money pit and looking out for them and killing a deal because of your experience and expertise actually will make you more money than if you try to convince someone to go forward with buying a house that they shouldn't. Yes, you would get paid right now versus getting paid nothing, but the level of loyalty that you will gain from a buyer when they see that you actually genuinely care about their finances, their well-being, like what situation they get in at your own demise, at your own expense. Those are customers for life now. Not only are they customers for life, but they are now referring you to their friends and family, and you're going to make a lot more money from that situation than if you do kind of what Casey was saying. He's seen other agents do, is like freak out about an inspection and
Or they'll
try
brush
to-
things
try-
under the rug that
right.
they shouldn't have.
or they see something and they don't say anything because they think it'll kill the deal, and you never know. I've had foundation stuff happen, or just some things that are major that
Yeah.
other buyers would run from, and
And the
then
next buyer's like, that's cool.
I had one house, the foundation. I mean, you literally were walking on, like, it felt like you were walking on mountains in this house. I kid you not. It was a crawl space house, and the floors were just literally like hills.
Oh,
Yeah, I
man.
And-
know
and-
exactly what you're talking
And it was
about.
like, there's no way. There's absolutely no way that we're gonna be able to get this house. And the buyer's like, "Oh, I have a great foundation guy. He's been able to level things worse than this. You wouldn't believe it." And I'm not
There you
worried.
go.
I'm not worried about it. Look, if that's the only issue, we're good to go. So
I just sold a house to a first time home buyer. Well, I had the seller, and the roof was totaled, and we started a claim, and they're like, "Oh yeah, our adjuster can't come out for like 3 weeks," and the buyer's like, "So does that mean we can't close before then?" It's like, if you want a new roof, we have to wait for the adjuster to come out. And he goes, "Well, I'm not willing to wait. I'm just going to go ahead and buy it." And so he just bought the house with a bad roof.
that happens.
And we gave him the option, and we said, "Are you sure? Like, we have the adjuster coming out. We just have to wait."
Are you sure? Okay, well, sign this, please.
Yeah. Oh, he did. We
sign
revised
this,
that. We revised that
disclosure.
TRR.
Yeah, no, the disclosure, not that. I'm like, your release of liability
Yeah,
here.
so
Yep.
sign that
I'm
too.
advising you to not buy this house, and I want you to sign this. No, but for first-time home buyers out there, when you're dealing with some of this stuff, I really think that the key is you're looking for things that are going to cause you financial hardship or be a really expensive cost that you wouldn't have to do if you picked a different house, right? And so some of the things that we tell our agents is you're looking for the major components of the house. You're not looking at the little tiny things that can easily be fixed or repaired yourself, or that you could hire a handyman to do it. Now, and sometimes it's annoying when there's a bunch of little things, and a bunch of little things can add up, yes, but you have to remember that no house is perfect. Almost every new construction house that gets built, as soon as the buyers move in, give it a month, maybe even less, they're gonna see something that, like, I wish I would have done XYZ.
Sure.
Or they're gonna ding up the wall. Their kids are gonna throw food on the wall, and it's gonna get all dirty, and you're not gonna do a deep clean for a few more months. You're gonna be fine living with scratches and dings, and people live with it all the time. Your house doesn't stay perfect. It's a home because it's lived in. And so you got to remember that when you are buying a house, the little things that are in the house, we're not concerned about that stuff. We'll take care of that when you get there. You're going to fix it better because it's going to be your home than a seller who's leaving it, right? The seller is going to patch it up to make it look like passable for when you come and do your final walkthrough. You're looking for the major components of a house, and those major components are
Roof
Roof, HVAC, electrical, plumbing, foundation.
and pool. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, if they have a pool,
But
yeah.
no,
they
if
have a
there's a
pool.
pool, you should definitely get a pool inspection.
Well,
Oh my God.
and then something else that is not really mentioned as a major component, but we always look for is termites.
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah.
and then also I think it depends on the area that you live. But we have an office in Florida, and so houses out there, you really want to try to make sure that there isn't like previous flood damage and things like that that you're really looking for.
Yeah,
So-
and I think you're most likely as a buyer, you're most likely to get the things repaired that are going to be hard for that seller to sell without it being done.
Yes.
Like a totaled roof. Like
things that you should expect when you're buying a house, even as existing, should be fixed and done when you
If
when
your
you
if
move
your
in.
sewer line is collapsed, like good luck on someone accepting that the way it is. Can they? Sure. Like I said, someone just accepted a bad roof.
But
Yeah.
it
But
just
most
eliminates
likely,
your chances.
yeah,
Yeah.
most likely you're going to need to address that issue.
and that seller now knows about it. They got to disclose it, and so you
And
know,
TRRs are the worst. And it's like you tell your client that, right? We're gonna go after the big things. You're like, put everything on that report. It's like,
Yeah.
did you hear what I just said?
yeah,
And they're like, I heard you put it on the damn TRR. And then you do it and you tell them like, hey, look, if we do this, they're probably gonna come back and not do some of the things you wanted on there. So I can approach this a couple different ways. One can be like, I tell them these are the ones that are kind of non-negotiables, which mean what? They'll go ahead and just strike everything else off and do those. Or I just send it over, see what they're willing to do, and they're going to strike off half the stuff that you actually wanted and do the stuff that you didn't really care about, but we just added because you wanted to add it.
Or they want to
And it
add
happens every time.
Yeah.
upgrades because there's a lot of quote unquote upgrades on home inspections, like windows. Like unless the windows are all busted out or something, but then you probably weren't buying that for your first home. But you can't just go asking for all new windows. That's an upgrade. Or
I mean, you can.
gutters. I mean, yeah,
Yeah, you
sure,
Just not as likely.
sure, but
Mm.
it's still more
Again,
of an
take it-
upgrade and not like a major
Yeah.
concern.
And take into the consideration again of the price.
Yes, yes.
and what you're talking about, Brooke, too, sometimes comes down to preference. Like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, well, you prefer to have
Yes.
those windows. Okay, well, so what? You know?
If the window
then
is bad, then sure.
Yeah, if it's not
I'm asking
fixed-
for the window, but
Yeah,
we're not asking for all new windows because they're single panes, and now the
yeah,
home inspection says you really need double pane for extra insulation. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah. Because if you want it, then either buy a house that has it, or get those windows when you move in.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't. You can always ask if there's nothing else and that's what you want, then go for it. But the purpose of the inspection is to inspect the house for current damage or repairs that are needed to major components. In my personal
And they're
opinion,
gonna cost you like tens of thousands of dollars,
And-
right?
Go ahead.
maybe not tens of that, but thousands.
Well, yes.
Yeah.
And keep in mind too, like again, like Curtis said, think about the future in the long game because you don't want, as a first-time home buyer, you don't want to be so difficult and challenging that you don't end up getting a house or doing what we said earlier, where you end up purchasing a worse house because you got pressured at some point and you like your lease was up, and you had 4 months, but now you don't. And I guess my point is, like, take everything into consideration for your price point. You're not going to get a seller to replace all the windows on a $100,000 house, $150,000 house. But if you go ahead and just close on that house, make sure your roof isn't totaled, like we've been saying, in 6 years, your equity is going to pay for those windows you wanted.
Yes.
But if you keep renting because you don't get what you want up front, well, you're never gonna get that opportunity to grow equity and start building your wealth. So sometimes you just have to take some things,
That
as they
payment,
are.
that monthly payment's always there. So you're either paying it into someone else's account or paying it into your own account.
It's crazy. If you pay $2,000 a month now, if you have a mortgage and you're a first time home buyer, your first few years are, interest loaded, but the opportunity there is to start building equity, making principal payments. Whereas renting, you pay $2,000 a month, that's 24 grand in a year. That's just so much money.
it adds up, but people just don't math that way.
Man.
You know,
No.
they again, we're living in the now and in the moment, and we're not thinking about long-term future. And a good agent will help you see those things and realize that. And part of the process of figuring out what you qualify for and what you're approved for is understanding, like, whatever price point you're in, you're going to have now insurance on the property that you're going to have to get. You're going to have property taxes, and all that, comes into play. So you're not just looking at your principal and interest of your loan, because you're going to have an escrow account, or you're going to be paying your taxes and insurance annually, and you're going to need to have the money set aside for that. So, and insurance is just getting more and
Mhm.
more and more expensive.
no matter where you're at in the
That
country.
doesn't matter where you at. I mean, like Brooke brought up the hurricanes. That increases insurance rates across the country because
Mhm.
those insurance companies, those national ones, they gotta come up with the money somehow, some way, for all the loss that they had. So rates have to go up. And so here in Oklahoma, we have tons of wind damage and storm damage and tornadoes that come through and roofs that get damaged. And so it causes rates to go up, and it's getting really expensive. It's getting out of hand
Yeah.
to a certain extent. And so you really need to make sure you get your insurance early so that you know what the payment's going to be, to see how is it going to affect your budget. So you're not getting quote a couple days before closing, and then all of a sudden you start panicking and getting into the situation Casey's talking about, where it's like, okay, I have 2 days to decide. Do I close and be financially in a monthly living paycheck to paycheck, but I don't want to lose my earnest money, because that's several $1,000s that I would lose. I don't I guess can you feel pressure now to just buy the house when maybe financially you shouldn't, but if you would have learned that the first week, you then could have gone and looked for a less expensive house. Now, a good agent will run the numbers, and before you even contract a house, to really make sure you understand the costs associated with it. But we don't know. Insurance carriers are different. We don't know your history of claims, so we don't know what your rate's going to be. So you got to get that as quickly as you can. Don't forget to also think about when you are closing, you got to set up your moving trucks and getting moving situated. Get your utilities turned on into your name. A lot of buyers don't think about that. They got to get any extras that you want, like depending on what cable provider you want to do, or if you're what are you going to get set up at the house, like vendor wise. You want to get that stuff turned on and scheduled. What am I missing?
Who knows until it comes up.
No, I think that's all pretty good. I was thinking, but
Just wait until it comes up, guys.
No, I'm just saying other things can come up.
yeah, don't do that,
Yeah.
because sometimes turning on utilities, there's deposits with that, and that sometimes is a big kicker.
Well, you can
So-
transfer them.
Well, not if they're moving here or something, or didn't have a rent house. Maybe they came from college.
Yeah, or they never had that utility in their name ever before.
Exactly.
That happens. Or you're moving from different
Mhm.
counties, because when I moved, I had a house that was on Oklahoma City utilities, but when it got moved to Logan County, is all different. It's all different. New deposits, new people servicing it. So, you want to think about that, getting that stuff turned on, and then one other thing is your down payment. Do not go and make big purchases when
Yeah,
you are
yeah,
under
yeah.
contract.
Don't buy a car. Don't go
Get
to
credit.
I mean,
Marcus
you can
Brothers
do those
furniture
things.
store.
You can do those things. You just need to talk to your lender before you do it.
Yes.
And make sure your DTI and all that's squared away.
Yes.
Yes. I would highly suggest
Just not do
not
it.
doing it. And even if a lender says, yeah, you can afford it, but like,
They just
you're
miss
gonna-
something.
yeah, the underwriters are going to look and see that you're just borrowing heavily, and you're just now, that's a sign of financial distress when all of a sudden
Yeah.
you're just borrowing a bunch of money to get things or new things. It's like you're a riskier borrower at that point.
Yeah,
So I
because
would
your
say just
brain's
don't
going,
do
oh,
it.
you know what goes good with a new house? A new car.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what else can fit on the other side of the garage? A new boat.
Yeah. Or if you're a first time home buyer, potentially, I mean, you don't have a history of this stuff, and all of a sudden you start borrowing money for the first time, and you go crazy, right? And just start borrowing a bunch. I mean,
And now you're in debt.
there's so many reasons, and that's what, and the lender now you're leaving it up to the lender to just guess and think about it, and they're not going to like it, and so they might say something. They might flat out deny you of the loan. So just don't go and do big purchases when you are buying a house, especially for the first time, I would say. But as Casey said, talk to your lender first if you're in a situation where you need to get something.
Yeah.
And then there was one other thing I was going to say along those lines.
Oh, I'd say there's not really a right or wrong time to buy your first house. It's whenever you want one. Don't
Yeah.
try to time the market. Don't be one of those people because you'll end up paying more.
I
Most
would
likely.
almost say like my answer when people ask like when's the bet when should I be looking to buy a house, I always say right now.
Yeah, if you're thinking about it, like
If you can afford the monthly the financial commitment of home ownership, then you shouldn't wait. Go look at the history of home prices since the early 1900s, late 1800s, since they've been tracked, and homes appreciate. Interest rates go up and down. You can always refinance, yes, but you are building your net worth and building your equity every month that you make a payment, and the longer you own, you get the appreciation effect. So there's always a benefit to home ownership if you can financially afford it.
Especially if you're a first-time home buyer, probably coming out of college, working on your career, maybe starting a family or just started a family. Start the equity now because you're going to get promoted. You may have another kid, your kids are going to grow. You're going to need a bigger house. And when you go buy that next house, you're going to be so thankful you bought the house when you did because of the equity that grows to help you grow and get the house that you really probably deserve at that point.
I don't think there's a single person that I could talk to like that's older. And what older is, I'm not going to say. But there's not a single person that I've talked to that has ever said like,
I regret buying the house.
not that, because I'm sure there's some people that regret, but that don't say, I shouldn't have bought a house. Like most time they say, look, what Casey said at the very beginning, dang, I just should have bought earlier
Mm-hmm.
because of what, like, man, back when I was looking at houses, they were $100,000 would get you a mansion or whatever, right? And now that same house today is worth $400,000, and almost everybody I talk to, when they see what prices are, they're like, man, I should have bought that house when I was thinking about it. And we can even sit here to this day and we're doing the same thing. It's like, well, should I buy it? Should I invest? What should I do? It's money. Like, we would rather spend our money on things than our future. If you don't own a house and you're thinking about it and you can financially afford it, now's the time. Do not wait for rates. Do not wait for them, because guess what? If rates do come down, guess what happens? Prices go up. And now you are looking at
competition goes up.
Yeah, everything. And so it's like you could have got that house for $350, and now you're priced out of it because it's now a $400,000 house. When you can get a better rate now, but the type of house that you're looking at buying is much different. So don't quit timing it, because if rates go down after you buy, that's a good thing. That means your home price is going to go up.
And if it's like for what happened to me, I bought a 4.5 in 2013, and of course, whenever I built in 2021, my equity increased so much, but then I got a 2.9% interest rate. So like, I was kind of able to time the market because we'd been living there for 10 years, and it's like we've been thinking about moving, and all of a sudden the rates start going down. It's like, well, shoot, here we go. This is perfect timing.
Well, I wouldn't even say you timed it yourself. It just happened to be.
But because I bought that first house,
yeah.
is why I was set up to be in that position to be able to do so.
Sure.
I think I have $100,000 in equity just sitting in my house.
Can I borrow some?
Just sitting there.
I think there's a lot of people that are sitting in there with equity that don't like that. It'd be nice to cash in, but then it's like, where do you go?
Yeah.
I think that's
Well,
that's why it's a little
to,
slower.
Be a smart business owner and slingshot myself and not go buy a fancy
There you
house.
go. There you go. But it's nice to know that you have built-in savings in your house, because you can't touch it unless you get some kind of line of credit. But for the most part, you can't just touch it and spend it. So it's a built-in savings account and wealth builder.
Yes.
Right.
That's why people say real estate is a great investment. And anytime I see people on social media selling, services that they can do to, like, hey, sell Amazon sales and you'll become a millionaire. Whatever they're selling, they always say this is better than even real estate. It's always real estate. Because it is the premier investment vehicle for people to use.
Yeah, it's the Michael Jordan of investing.
Awesome. All right, guys. Well,
that's all, folks.
Yeah. Well, if you guys like what you hear, please like, comment, subscribe. click the bell for future notifications. And then call Casey Tudor if you want to buy a house at 405-595-8902. And my name's Casey Tudor, as I just said, and we're signing off. This is Curtis Haddock and Brooke.
The would you rather
Would you rather?
would you rather hire Casey as your realtor or Brooke as your realtor? See you guys later. Make your comment in the comment section.
Well, I gave y'all my numbers. Bye.